Chapter 1. The chapter begins with a doctor and a nurse entering a ward and meeting a patient named Kusanagi Minato as he stares at a mirror in shock. They take off his bandages and see that all his injuries have healed. The doctor says he went into critical condition due to a traffic accident, and Kusanagi tells himself that his body automatically heals him using holy magic. He asks the doctor if his magic was completely depleted during the calamity, and the doctor is confused. The doctor is confused and asks him what his name is and what time he thinks he's in. Kusanagi says his name is Ichikama Minato and says he is in the year 1970. The doctor tells him that his name is Kusanagi Minato and says he is in the year 2022. He then says the calamity occurred 50 years ago and hasn't happened since then. Kusanagi sees the technology around him and realizes the doctor isn't lying. The doctor says that everywhere is peaceful and there are only a few monsters. He then mentions that Ichikama sacrificed himself to save the world, and Ichikama realizes he has reincarnated as Kusanagi. Some weeks later, Kusanagi returns to his house and sees that his parents passed away when he was a child. He has been getting by with his parents' inheritance and sees that he is a student at a magic academy. A boy named Tadano calls his phone and he throws it away because he doesn't know what to do. He goes to school later and feels nostalgic because he is attending school as an adult in a young boy's body. Some students begin casting magic spells and he is disappointed as he says their power is low. He goes to his class and sits at a desk as he continues feeling nostalgic. Tadano suddenly emerges and stands in front of him with his friends. He begins to mock Kusanagi, but Kusanagi says he doesn't know who he is. Tadano kicks his table away and Kusanagi realizes he is a bully. A beautiful girl suddenly walks into the class and Tadano has feelings for her, so he stops bullying Kusanagi and walks away. A teacher begins to teach them about the Great Calamity and talks about how Ichikama was the great sage who fought the monsters. The girl named Mizuha says Ichikama was the greatest mage that defeated the demon god and ended the Great Calamity. Kusanagi feels nervous as he says the class is embarrassing, and he says he didn't expect it to be torture. He realizes that magicians are weak because the world is at peace, and the teacher decides to end the class. He says they will have a magic power assessment the following day, and Tadano goes to Kusanagi's table and continues mocking him. Tadano insults Kusanagi, but Kusanagi decides to ignore him and stands up to leave. Tadano gets angry and insults his dead parents, and Kusanagi insults him. His anger intensifies as he decides to use his magic in class. Several students begin to panic as Tadano activates his magic and he hits Kusanagi with fire. Mizuha telling Tadano that using magic in the classroom is dangerous, and Tadano says it's not his fault because Kusanagi tried to pick a fight with him. The fog begins to clear, and the students are shocked as they see that Kusanagi is standing and is unaffected by the magic attack. Tadano is shocked as he wonders how Kusanagi is unscratched by his attack, and Kusanagi tells himself his magic barrier can defend attacks that are at level 1 magic. He then says he tolerated Tadano because he is a child, but says he needs to be punished. Kusanagi begins to release his energy and everyone in the class is unable to move as they wonder what is happening. Mizuha begins to wonder what type of magic is in effect, and Kusanagi walks to Tadano as he trembles. He reaches out to grab Tadano as he continues to tremble, but a teacher barges in and asks what the sound that just occurred was. He asks if someone is using magic in the classroom and demands that they tell him what is happening. Kusanagi tells him that nothing happened in the classroom and says that someone might be using magic outside. He says that the student might be using his magic because there is no club activity going on outside, and says the smoke also came from outside. The teacher decides to believe Kusanagi because he is a good student and says he will find the culprit. Kusanagi tells himself that the students are still too weak and they won't be able to fight monsters. He then says there will still be monsters even if there isn't a calamity going on, and decides to search. That night, Kusanagi goes to Old Shibuya and says it has changed a lot. He begins to move around as he says he doesn't sense any monsters and says the police have defeated all of them. He then senses a monster and realizes it's alone with a human. Kusanagi rushes to the monster and kills it as it is about to kill a woman. He then realizes she is a member of the police force and tells her to be careful as he flies away. The officer wonders who he is and says he didn't chant a spell before using his magic abilities. Kusanagi says it is a good idea that he kept his identity hidden and says he doesn't want to stand out because he just reincarnated. He realizes that even the police's magic levels have gone down and says that people are unable to defeat monsters. He then says that the magicians in the timeline he is currently in have become weak, but he smiles as he says they still need his powers. He continues flying around and decides to annihilate all the surrounding monsters. The following day, when a teacher tells the students that they will be measuring their magic power, he stands beside a large device that is used to measure their magic abilities and says they should get both their magic amount and attribute. He then says they are the most important values if they want to become professional magicians. Kusanagi is surprised as he sees the machine and realizes they can't measure their magic level without using it. He gets frustrated because the teachers don't know the basics of magic and says the magic perception is the foundation of magic. Mizuha walks to Kusanagi and asks if it's a good time for them to talk. Some students are shocked as they see her talking to him, and she says it's the first time they are talking. She says it is the second daughter from the magic noble house of Mizuha as she introduces herself, and Kusanagi asks her what a magic noble house is. She is shocked that he doesn't know, and she says the noble houses are the head of the magicians. Kusanagi tells himself the noble houses didn't exist in his time, and he sees that her power level isn't great. Mizuha gets annoyed at Kusanagi's lack of interest in her. Tadano gets jealous because Mizuha is talking to Kusanagi. Kusanagi asks Mizuha how she has business with him and wonders what is wrong with her as her annoyance increases. She says there must be a reason why he didn't get affected by Tadano's magic the previous day and tries to ask him, but the teacher interrupts and asks them to get ready to measure their power. Tadano measures his power and sees that his attribute is fire and his magic power is at 1000. He celebrates because it is better than before, but Kusanagi tells himself that the measuring standard hasn't changed in 50 years. Mizuha is up next and she measures her magic power. She sees that her attribute is water and her magic power is at 2000. The teacher tells Tadano and Mizuha that their powers are at the top of the year's level and that they will make fantastic magicians. Kusanagi is frustrated as he says Mizuha isn't different from an amateur. It reaches Kusanagi's turn to measure his magic power and Mizuha stares at him. The students talk about how he was at the bottom of the class the last time they checked, and Tadano says he doesn't have talent. They all prepare to see his magic power rating, and Tadano says he is going to embarrass himself. Kusanagi wonders what he will do as he says he didn't like how he stood out a lot during his time. He wonders if he should hold back but decides not to and places his hand on the machine. He decides to go all out and everyone is shocked as they see the surge of energy that comes from him. The machine begins to overload and eventually explodes and several shards fly at the students but get destroyed. Kusanagi realizes that no one could sense his magic and the teacher decides to see if the students are all right. He says Kusanagi is lucky because he was at the center of the blast and says he has never experienced the machine explode. He then asks Tadano if Kusanagi can join his group and says they are unable to group him without a score. Tadano smiles as he agrees and says he is looking forward to it. In Old Shibuya, where a teacher says there are still monsters inhabiting places that were destroyed by the Great Calamity. He says that academy students are required to help the police and magicians subjugate the monsters there. Kusanagi says he didn't expect a practical class and realizes he was present in the town the previous night. He says something is weird because he took down all the monsters, but he can still sense some. He sees as some students are carefree and Mizuha stares at him from a distance. The teacher says the practical class has begun and encourages the students to work as a team. Tadano and his friends tell Kusanagi to stay in one place while they defeat the monsters, and Kusanagi tells him to ignore him. Tadano gets annoyed and asks him why Mizuha is interested in him. Kusanagi then points out that Tadano has feelings for her, and Tadano gets angry. He and his friends prepare to attack Kusanagi with their magic spells, but Kusanagi asks them not to attack and says they should look back. Tadano says he won't be fooled but turns back and sees a powerful monster behind him. he and his friends panic and he attacks the monster, but his attack doesn't even scratch it. They then fall to the ground as they tremble in fear, and Kusanagi says a demon soldier can't be defeated with level 1 magic. The demon soldier moves toward them as it prepares to attack, but it senses Kusanagi and moves away. Kusanagi stands in front of Tadano and the demon soldier uses an attack. Tadano tells him he can't defeat the demon soldier using level 1 magic, and Kusanagi uses a giant rock, which is a level 1 magic skill, to block its attack. He then uses a level 1 magic skill, which is a fire arrow, and attacks the demon soldier. The attack hits the demon soldier and kills him instantly. Tadano and the others are shocked as they see that Kusanagi was able to kill the demon soldier, and Tadano says it's impossible. Kusanagi walks as he says his level 1 magic can kill a demon soldier. He says it is strange for a demon soldier to be in Shibuya and wonders if the fact that there are more monsters after he killed them all is a bad omen. He then promises to save everyone if a calamity happens again. Tadano's friends are still in shock as they wonder if Kusanagi is the person they know. Tadano gets furious while Mizuha hides behind a wall. Mizuha using her magic to kill several monsters as the students say she is amazing. She tells herself that ordinary people are a drag and smiles. She then sees Tadano and his friends walk elsewhere with Kusanagi and she decides to follow them. She thinks he is getting bullied and decides to watch from behind a wall and is shocked as she sees a demon soldier. Mizuha realizes Tadano and his friends can't fight the demon soldier alone and decides to help, but is in shock as the fire arrow moves past her after killing the demon soldier. She realizes it is Kusanagi's magic and remembers how he used to be timid and had no aptitude for magic. She says she didn't hear him chant a spell and wonders how he can use level 1 magic to defeat a demon soldier. Mizuha says a demon's strength is determined by its number of crystals, and it is how its ranking is established. Magical beasts are the lowest rank as they have only 1 crystal, and demon soldiers are ranked 5 because they have 2 crystals. Demon captains have 3 crystals and are rank 4, while demon generals have 4 crystals and are rank 3. A demon king has 5 crystals and is rank 2, and the demon god, which has 6 crystals, has the highest rank. Mizuha says a person needs a level 3 magic attack to defeat a demon soldier and watches Kusanagi walk away. Kusanagi tells Mizuha that peeking around is a nice hobby, and she wonders how he knew where she was. He continues walking as she tries to ask for an explanation, but he suddenly disappears. Kusanagi stands on a building and decides to check around the town for monsters. He realizes that there are no other demon soldiers in the town, but says there are a lot of magical beasts present. He is disappointed because Tadano, who is considered an excellent student, acted the way he did in front of the demon soldier. He then realizes that the other students will have a hard time fighting the magical beasts because of how weak they are, and wonders if he should help them by reducing the number of magical beasts. Kusanagi activates his level 2 magic skill called Magic Barret and says his range covers the entire town. His attack moves across the town, and some students wonder what it is, while others think the attacks are shooting stars. Mizuha looks up in shock and wonders if the attacks are multiple magic attacks, as she says the quantity is too much. Some students get surrounded by several magical beasts and they are unable to continue fighting. The magical beasts prepare to attack them but get killed by Kusanagi's attack before they are able to. Kusanagi stands on the roof and says killing the magical monsters feels good. He then realizes that he killed too many monsters and didn't leave enough for the class to be able to progress. He then says he needs to hold himself back from using too much power. The end. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time. See you next time.